Glizzy out of here.
So the New York Knicks just knocked out the Philadelphia 76ers, and boy, was it a great series. Easily one of the better series in the first round. I knew that this was going to be very competitive. I just didn't know how many games was going to go. Originally, I thought the Sixers were going to win this series. However, to be fair, I definitely didn't think that the Knicks, especially Josh Hart in particular, would shoot as well as they did in this series. They ended up shooting 37% from three, a team that struggled immensely. The long ball just being consistent on that side of the floor really made their name on the defensive side of the floor, the chemistry and continuity, but things were just flowing. Josh Hart finishes this series with 17 points, 12 rebounds, 4.5 assists, shooting 43% from behind the arc. He was magnificent. I said 12 rebounds for like a 6'5" guard. He was great from start to finish. Also really great minutes from DiVincenzo, great shooting nights at least. McBride came off the bench, gave them really quality minutes as well. But of course, I would be remiss if I did not talk about Jalen Brunson. Please excuse the shooting splits because it wasn't the greatest. He went out there and averaged 35.5 points, 4.5 rebounds, 9 assists with the steal, shooting splits of 43, 30, and 78%. But when you're on the team where there's not that much shot creation, there's not that much floor spacing, they really heavily depend on you to just create everything for everyone else. This is kind of the result of what it's going to be. We were on stream the other night and we were talking about like how effectively this is kind of sort of what an Allen Iverson-led team would look like. A lot of shot chucking, a lot of putting up points, but just have to repeatedly be in that mentality to score because nobody else on the team can really generate their own offense and create for anybody else. And Jalen Brunson, there's still some question marks in my opinion how good he can be as a first option in the championship team. I don't think he can be, but nevertheless, he's been fantastic early on. If I'm not mistaken, like last 4 games in the series, put up 39, 47, 40, and 41. Basically put up 40 points every single game throughout the rest of the entire series. I think there was a tweet out there somewhere where they were saying that Jalen Brunson was the first player since Jordan to have like 4 40-point games in a row in the postseason. Just fantastic. I have to give a lot of praise to Jalen Brunson. He went out there, I believe, exceeded expectations. And even before I go into the Sixers, I have to say this real quickly. The Knicks probably have the most to gain from a non-title contending team. Like, I don't think anybody believes that the Knicks are going to win a championship this year, and understandably so. The team just isn't built to win a championship or compete against the Boston Celtics or a lot of other teams out in the Western Conference. But they have the most to gain because if they can prove to the NBA world, we can make a deep postseason run, get to the conference finals while Julius Randle isn't here just off of the back of Jalen Brunson. Hey man, they got enough draft capital with Julius Randle's contract. They can trade him. Bogdanovic, he's no longer going to be a part of the team either because he's got injured. He's on expiring, so he's tradable also. This is a team that could very well convince themselves that, hey man, get deep enough, it's easier to convince other players across the NBA to come join us if they're frustrated. Shout out to the Knicks. They finally built a roster in my lifetime where they didn't just rush out there and sign a bunch of names. They did the right thing. They built from the ground up, got a stable environment, a stable roster, and they're building off of that. Tom Thibodeau, please stop playing these players 40 plus minutes. But hey, until we get to that point where you can't do that, yeah, man, just I when I watch Josh Hart out there, I'll be like, bro, this brother is he's fried in a couple more years. It's kind of tough. We already know how that's going to end. But now, going to the bigger portion of this video, the Philadelphia 76ers. Like, here we are again, Sixers in the season without a conference finals appearance, without a finals appearance, without a championship. This is something that many people like myself kind of knew was going to happen anyway. But this year hits a little bit differently, right? This is a team that was on the side of the bracket where you can avoid the Boston Celtics until you get to the conference finals. You were in a position to reach a level of success that you've never reached before. So getting knocked out in the first round certainly hurts. To ease the pain a little bit, Joel Embiid isn't 100% healthy. Maxey is still dealing with some growing pains as a lead guard. It does feel like when are things going to start clicking for this team? We are now 11 years into the process. Sam Hinkie was hired May 14th, 2013. Doesn't really seem like we're going in the right direction. Sure, you can argue that we're no longer in the process. I get that because Sam Hinkie hasn't been a part of the organization since 2016. But effectively, you went down this path of, hey, we're going to tank. Hey, we're going to get a high draft pick. And with that draft pick or draft picks, we're going to select star players that can be transcended. And that's how we're going to win basketball games and eventually win a championship. Here we are now, and the team is moving backwards at this point. If we go back and just look at the level of success that each team has seen, back in 2018 was the first time making the postseason during the process era with Joel Embiid on the roster, et cetera, et cetera. They made it to the second round, then second round again in 2019, knocked out in the first round during the bubble year year, but be very mindful that year that Ben Simmons was not healthy, so it was just Embiid. And then for 3 straight years, second round exits. And then this year, they got knocked out in the first round. And not only that, this is also from a win-loss perspective. This is the least amount of wins that they've been able to receive. This is effectively the worst year from start to finish. But that kind of shifts us into like the bigger picture here and probably the biggest talking point, and that is Embiid. You know, I love Embiid. I'm not going to sit here and act like I am so anti-Embiid that a lot of people kind of find themselves in because of his flopping ways. I'm not the biggest fan of the style of play, but I do like Embiid, what he provides to a team. He's clearly a difference maker. Even in this series where he was playing on one leg, he was still putting up really great numbers, and the team as a whole looked significantly worse on both sides of the floor when he wasn't on the court with them. Even with one leg, Embiid is clearly massively impactful, right? But at some point, we have to question the impact if he's never really available to play at 100%, or at least close enough to that to leave a long-lasting impact on the team to make a deep postseason run. Because we're at a stage of his career where he's 30, going on 31, and just historically speaking, 7-foot players, centers who carry a lot of weight, who've had a long list, and I do mean a very long list of injuries that have been waning on their body. They don't age the greatest, right? And Embiid, think that in all intents and purposes, the Sixers have done a very exceptional job in making sure they manage his minutes and kind of position him in a situation to where he is available for a deep postseason. That's what really needs to be prioritized at this point. Nobody doesn't need to see Embiid in the regular season. I don't really care. And I'm being very serious here. I don't care if Embiid misses the last 20 games of the regular season. If you have to sit him down and just not play him anymore, I don't care about him making any All-NBA teams anymore. I don't even care about him winning any MVPs anymore because he's done that already. What everybody wants to see is if he can hold up for a deep postseason run. And the reason why I think that's interesting and why it's concerning is because that is a question that we still have not got an answer to. The reasoning to why he performs certain ways is because the regular season kind of waned on his body and that kind of carried over into the postseason. I would dare argue that even with all of the preparation that they give him in the regular season, especially with his ability to kind of sit out games during back-to-backs or not play as many games within a certain amount of time frame, that gives us clear indication that it doesn't even really matter how much he sits. He may not even be prepared to make a deep postseason run, even if he plays like limited minutes and limited games during the regular season, because by the time you get in the second and third round, you are effectively playing basketball every other day. I personally believe that Joel Embiid's body, it's not built for that. It's not going to stand up, and I think that's a much bigger question and concern that we have to have. I also thought it was really, really questionable, the morality behind pushing Joel Embiid out there to play basketball through his injury. I applaud him, and I get sick and tired of this conversation about how today's players, they're weak, they're sissies, or whatever people want to sit here and say. They don't want to fight through the injury, when Embiid has effectively been playing through injury every single postseason run for the past 6-7 years now. If we're going to build a team around Joel Embiid, what does that look like and what do they need? And that's the reason why a couple of months ago I said that the Sixers kind of failed Embiid in those regards. People got upset at me at that point. I uploaded a video on this channel, go check it out. But effectively I was saying that Daryl Morey really failed Embiid in building a competent roster around him, so Embiid doesn't have to give you heavy minutes in the regular season, and when the playoffs come around, you can have somebody else that can take away a lot of that stress as well, because Embiid just isn't that type of a player. He's not a player that can just go out there by himself and just anchor both sides of the floor. He's just not. Shout out to Tyrese Maxey. He did an amazing job this year. I think he really deserves Most Improved Player of the Year award, because even though, yes, statistically there may have been other players who had greater leaps, the responsibility that Maxey took upon himself this year is what, in my opinion, was way more impressive. But Maxey, he is still a year or two away from being the player that they kind of need him to be, and we don't even know if he's ever going to be that player. So even though, yes, I do appreciate the improvement, but can Tyrese Maxey really be that guy to aid Joel Embiid in the process of alleviation on the offensive side of the floor? And even if he can or cannot, you still have to fill out the rest of the roster. Nicholas Batum, Kelly Oubre, those expiring contracts that you received for James Harden to trade, and that's the reason why I thought that was not a good transaction. Pay Harden based off of the value that you have for him, not necessarily the value that the rest of the league has, because the rest of the league, they don't need Harden as much as the Sixers need Harden. They need him to help Joel Embiid throughout the regular season, to take a lot of that responsibility off of him, to make sure that even if Maxey does turn into that player, that even that transition can be as smooth as possible. And that's the reason why I thought the whole Daryl Morey situation, he was trying to play high-level chess, but I think he played himself out of a situation where you effectively just punted away or just wasted away another year of Joel Embiid. And you have to ask yourself, from a managerial standpoint, what exactly can we do next, realistically? realistically speaking. I hear a lot of people crossing their fingers and hoping and praying that they can go out there and get someone like Paul George playing for the Clippers, really solid year. What does he look like in a role where he can be a defensive wing, 3-and-D guy and go out there and give you some ample buckets on the other side as well, be a shot creator. But I'm here to tell you that don't really make any sense for Paul George. You know, let me explain to you right now. I'm Paul George. I get the phone call. Ring, 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 ring. Hello. Hey, who is this? PG. Is Daryl Morey on the phone? What? Daryl Morey? Get out of here, man. How you doing, man? How you doing? Hey, man, I'm doing great, man. How you doing, man? Man, I'm doing great, man. Shit, I'm just looking at potentially getting knocked out in the first round because I had to carry the Clippers once more because the best player on my team is not available. You don't say. Yep. That's what we're doing again in LA, man. I don't think I'm gonna stay because Kawhi is never available. Our best player is never available, and we cannot win in deep postseason runs because the best player on the team is never available. Even when we add more talent to the roster, it don't matter because we need the best player available in the postseason. He's never available. Damn, that does suck. Yeah, man. Yeah, that sucks, man. Because I'm just sitting here, I'm killing my body, man. I'm just out here playing all these minutes, man. I carried us to the conference finals one year, but I ain't got him anymore. I can't do that no more. But you know, at least I got James here and stuff like that. You know, God, you gave up on. But hey, man, why you calling again? I was seeing if seeing if you have a good summer, man. All right, man. All right, good, man. Because I know you ain't calling me to go play with Joel Embiid when he's not available during the playoffs either, right? That's how this gonna happen, right? It genuinely makes no sense for Paul George to leave one team where the best player on his team is never really available to go to a worse team where the best player is not also available for a deep postseason run. It makes no sense. It don't look like you can or should play hard in that much money. But don't know if you noticed, but Embiid only has 2 more guaranteed years left on his deal. And this is the worst roster that you surrounded him with probably since 2017. All of you all may love Maxey. I do too. But at some point, you have to be realistic. How many more years is Embiid going to waste on a roster that is not building around him? You all picked Tobias Harris over Jimmy Butler. Tobias just gave you a donut in an elimination game. They have been teasing the Philadelphia 76ers fans for like years about just trading him. And we're going to trade him. We're going to trade him. We're going to trade him. And then this deadline came and you didn't trade him. I'm here to tell you, Sixers fans, you've been getting teased for 11 years. You got teased with Jimmy Butler and saying, oh, that looks good. You got teased when Tobias Harris supposed to be traded. Oh my God, but that didn't happen. You got teased with James Harden. And if he's going to stay, go, we got to need him. Oh, but that didn't work out. And now here you are with the worst roster you've had in like 5 or 7 years. Basically, everyone on the roster are expiring. So either you're going to sign them to extension so they can stay on the roster, or potentially do a sign and trade, but they're effectively role players, so you're not going to receive that much for them. And if you don't do that, they walk and you receive nothing in return, period. This team is not a good piece or two away from getting to the finals. This team is not a Maxey improvement away from getting to the conference finals. This team needs a legitimate third star, because the number 1 star on this team cannot be relied upon for a full regular season nor post. Stop being in denial about that, because the more you're in denial about it, the more you convince yourself that rosters like that were just being constructed this year is suffice enough when it's actually not. But see, here's the thing with Philadelphia 76ers fans. Losing this much has conditioned you to be complacent, because now some of you all would have been content with the conference finals appearance, even though that should have never been the plan. The plan has been, always will be, to win a championship. Get that through your thick skull. To say, we just get a conference finals appearance. And you think that's good enough? No, it's not. And acknowledge where you're at. No, a team that needs to compete because their best player only has 2 more years left to compete and win a championship. And then the rest of the roster is literally, and I do mean literally, role players who are on expiring contracts, and the best one just gave you a donut in an elimination game. That's where you are right now. This is my thoughts. 18 months. That's it. We get back a full 365 days to where we are today. And if you all get knocked out in the first round again, or the second, and then we go another about 6-7 months, that's when Embiid is going to start demanding trades, if not sooner. So please recognize that and understand it, because I think a lot of people, it hasn't hit yet the reality of where this team is at. But yo, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. And until next time, I'll see you all later. Peace.